What's up, guys? Okay, we're looking at the Air Force Talon 22 cal air rifle. I've done a video on this before, but I wanted to do another one and talk a little bit more in depth about the gun and hopefully show you a little more about it. So starting off a little about this particular gun, I bought it probably around I think 2008. And I got it as a Talon SS, and the SS was basically the shortened, compact, silent version of the Talon air rifle. Now they do have a more powerful version called the Condor, which is actually slightly longer than this one, has a different air tank, which holds a little more pressure. I went with the traditional Talon SS because I was hoping to get a silenced or a quieter air rifle, especially because these pre-charged pneumatic guns can be pretty loud. So in the Condor model, that one's really loud because it I believe breaks the sound barrier. So I was hoping to get a quieter version. Now this originally came with a 20 cal barrel, which is very short. The muzzle comes to about here inside this tube or shroud, and you have about 4 inches of empty space with a little cap on the end, and that space is supposed to muffle the noise, which it does a little bit, but it kind of sounds like if you stuck the barrel in a Coke can or something. You hear the air hitting the metal, so I don't know, it wasn't as quiet as I thought it would be. And with that shorter barrel, like I said, I added 20 cal, so it wasn't quite as powerful as this gun has the capacity to be. So I used that for a while, and it did good. It was good, a good little hunting gun. Real lightweight. That was the one thing I was surprised about, how lightweight it was with that short barrel. And that was just awesome and you know, this is a carbine style rifle, so I thought that was pretty cool. But eventually I wanted to get a little more power out of it, so I bought a Walther Lothar 22 cal barrel. And the great thing about Air Force guns is you can swap out their barrels, so you can go from 177, 20, 22 cal, 25s, all the way up, and swap them out however you see fit. So I knew I had the ability to do that. It's really easy to change the barrel on one of these. Doesn't take long at all. It's not too hard. You don't need a lot of special tools. So I went ahead and upgraded that. I ended up getting I think about 10 foot-pounds more power out of it just from upgrading the caliber size and the length of the barrel. It did make it a little heavier, so this kind of feels about the weight, especially with the scope of a full-powered or a full-length air rifle, whether you're talking about a spring piston or otherwise. But it's not too heavy. It's kind of perfect actually as far as that goes. So that's what I did as far as a power mod. The only other things that I've really done to this, aside from painting it obviously, is I fixed up the handle a little bit. Now I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons of this gun, and we'll start here with the cons. And the first one is the handle. So the Air Force Talon handle is just a very simple, thin piece of plastic on this. The whole thing's aluminum pretty much, synthetic stock here and handle, but just a piece of plastic or synthetic handle grips attached to the aluminum frame. And it didn't have these finger grooves, which you'll see. So I not only thickened this up, I added finger grooves by making a mold kind of out of cardboard, wrapping it in tape, and then wrapping that in Ranger bands. So now I have this really grippy, tacky, full handle with finger grooves. So that just helps for carrying, shooting, helps all around. So that's one thing I don't like about it. It doesn't have a man's hand size handle. It has a little, kind of like a little kid's handle, and I don't know why they did that. Another issue, their triggers are great. I usually modify my triggers. Trigger on this gun is I won't say perfect, but it's good enough to my liking. I don't need to really tinker with it as far as I'm concerned. There is a problem though with the safety, which is this little tab right here. Now when you cock the gun, you just pull back the bolt or pull it forward, load your pellet in here, draw back the bolt. When you do that, it automatically engages the safety, and all you have to do to make the gun unsafe or ready to fire is push that forward. Now the problem is when you push it forward, it makes a loud clank noise. It's not super loud, but it makes a metallic clanking noise. Now Air Force bills this gun as a hunting air rifle. So what I don't understand is if you're out in the field, yeah, you can cock the gun before you go out, keep it on safe, which you obviously would for safety reasons. But then when you see a game, game, you disengage the safety, and it's going to make a loud clanking noise and give away your position. And I don't know why they didn't test that or think about that, or why that never became an issue. They could have made something like a safety on an AR, or any other number of guns where you just pivot a little button or lever, switch, whatever, that doesn't make a lot of noise. So, and I've seen this on other guns. You click the safety and it's like pink, and it out in the field, in the woods, when everything's quiet and you're trying to be stealth, you just want a very slight noise or no noise at all when you click that safety. You don't want to have to worry about that when hunting. So that is a flaw in my opinion, and I've written Air Force about that. And of course, when I say Air Force, I'm not talking about like the Army, Navy, Air Force. Air Force is the name of the company down in Texas that makes these guns. Let's see. Oh, another con that I have about this gun is the use of the 3/8 inch dovetail rails. Back in the day when this gun was being conceived, air guns were traditionally used the dovetail rails. Now in modern times, like present day, there's a lot of replica style air guns that replicate military weapons, and they have Weaver rails and accessories, and that's become a standard, the 5/8 Picatinny Weaver. So this isn't compatible with that unless you get the adapters. So if you wanted flashlights and all that, now Air Force does make that, but you don't have the choices out in the firearms market for those type of accessories unless you get the rail adapters and everything. So to me, that's a drawback. I would have liked to have seen it kitted out with all of the Weaver rail mounts. Other than that, as far as cons go, it is a single action. You have to load it one at a time with your thumb. Air rifles nowadays, you've got semi-automatics with clip-fed rotary clips, and that would be nice with a PCP air rifle because you can shoot without having to pump, and you have a very large reservoir, so you could shoot a lot of shots in succession. So that would have been nice, but again, this gun was conceived over a decade ago, and that technology and that mindset for air guns wasn't really commonplace. So it is what it is. Again, with air rifles, it's all about accuracy. So you want to do one shot, one kill. If you need a follow-up shot, you can load it pretty quickly and shoot again. That's no big deal. Um, this is a very accurate air rifle. Being pre-charged pneumatic, there is no recoil really. You get a little bit from the hammer, and so much air is forced out of this thing that it kind of shakes it a little bit, but you don't get that kickback. So when you're looking at the buttstock here, this is not meant to press into your shoulder. This is meant to kind of like rest on your shoulder, like kind of on the top. And you can see how thick the reservoir is. I of course have a leather case over it. But this isn't exactly an ergonomic cheek rest. It's awfully thick. And you do actually have to tilt your head at an angle to view through the scope. A lot of people will view that as a disadvantage. But you know, with pre-charge, they all have to have canisters, and the manufacturers have to be creative about how they put these canisters on there. So this one, it's in the buttstock, and sometimes they'll do it as the part of the forestock. But if you're going to have it in the buttstock, it's going to be thicker than, you know, traditional wood or synthetic one. And you're just going to have to learn to deal with that. Once you do learn how to shoot, resting your chin on this and your head at an angle, it's fine. You get used to it. But that is another issue. But yeah, as far as this piece here, and again, this whole thing unscrews. So that's how you refill it. Comes out right here. Screws on, screws off. But yeah, you don't have to worry about a recoil pad or anything. This just sits lightly on your shoulder. What I've got here is just a strap. I put my arm through here. This rests on my shoulder, and this thing hangs on my side, and I can easily draw it up to fire. That way I don't have to deal with other types of straps. I just have a small strap on the end. That works out really good. The scope I have on this particular gun is just a Barska illuminated reticle scope, pretty cheap. Nothing fancy, but it does have a good resolution. A nice reticle in there. So you with this gun, again, since there's no recoil, you can go with any type of scope you want. Any rifle scope, firearm scope, you don't have to worry about that spring piston, reverse recoil stuff, breaking your scope, knocking the lenses out or whatever. So you can go with whatever you want. You don't even have to worry about screwing it onto the rail too tight. We've talked about a lot of stuff so far. The only thing really left is this power adjuster. And in theory, you can spin this wheel and move this from 2 to 12, or those are the measurements on there. I guess it goes up to like 13. That it seems kind of silly to me. I mean, it's got this dial here with all these little numbers. It's like, and all it's doing is when you screw this, it shortens or lengthens the spring, and then the hammer hits the canister harder and releases more or less air. So that's basically your power adjuster. So ideally, if you're target shooting or something, you can get more shots by lowering this, and if you're hunting, you get more shots by increasing it. I just have it fixed at like 3/4 of the way. You don't really get that much power by going all the way anyways. So where I have it now, McCroney's at about 890 feet per second, so almost 900. And in a 22 cal, that's screaming. So this is a really, really powerful gun. I'll just kind of pick it up here and do some close-ups of it, just so you can mainly see the paint job. I did a desert camouflage scheme. I just painted a couple base layers of beige and brown, and then went back over it with the sponge and dabbed some green, some darker brown on there. So this does this. I mean, this thing will blend in pretty much anywhere with this color scheme, camo scheme. There's your bolt. Push that forward to cock it. Inside there is where you'll load it. The barrel, actually, the base of the barrel comes to here. And then that nozzle is where the air is released. There's the handle. I put tape over the base, but that's actually hollow in there. You could probably store stuff in there if you wanted to. I may actually create a little kit or something to put in there, who knows. And there is a lot of rail space if you wanted to deck this out with accessories. There's this side. It's nice as far as how it's designed, because you don't have stuff sticking out the side. You don't have a bolt sticking out on one side. It's really symmetrical and smooth, so it's ambidextrous. So that's definitely a good selling point, especially if you're a lefty. The foregrip is real simple. Just a like 6 or 7 inch piece of plastic, one screw. Screws right in. This mostly uses Allen screws. I'm trying to think of if there is anything else to it. I mean, we could talk about like the power plant here and how you fill that up. Pre-charged pneumatic. This is a compressed air canister, holds up to 3,000 psi. You can either use a scuba tank or a hand pump. Now the hand pump, it's not just a bicycle pump. You need to get a specific air rifle PCP pump, and they run about almost 200 bucks. And they're heavy duty metal because it's high pressure. You don't want that stuff breaking. You want it to last a long time. So it takes a while to pump it up. It's really hard to do. It's a good workout, but yeah, pumping this thing is no joke. And you have to wait because the thing will overheat. So it takes about a half an hour to sit there and pump this thing up. You get about 30 to 40 powerful shots out of it. So it does last a while, and you know, with this being single bolt action, you're not going to be shooting all day long, or shooting a lot of shots in rapid succession. So you get enough air for, I would say, a day's worth, or a target shooting session. Or obviously hunting, you're not going to be shooting that much, I wouldn't think. So that really isn't much of an issue. The gun is extremely accurate. There is no recoil. It's got a crisp trigger. Everything's just real smooth about it. High quality barrel. You know, Air Force is a trusted brand. Despite the flaws in the design of the rifle, the functionality of the rifle is excellent. So, I mean, I would still to this day recommend this air gun, just because it's lightweight, it's very accurate, it has a simple, effective design. There's not a lot of bad stuff you can say about it as far as the quality. Again, design issues, yeah, there could be some improvements, but the quality is excellent. Made in Texas, American made. So, you know, another reason to buy from them. The interchangeability of the barrels is another plus. You can't do that with a lot of air rifles, at least not easily. With Air Force, it's meant for you to be able to easily do that. The handle, the rail mount is the handle, sort of like the M16. So it's meant to be held like that. I always thought that was cool. It's integrated into the design of the gun. Normally you don't pick a gun up by the scope, but